Welcome to TV20 News. I'm Dan Monroe. Coming up on today's news, we'll give you tips on safe cooking for Thanksgiving. Then we'll take you to the 155th Academy graduation ceremony for the Cleveland Division of Police. And then I'll show you how to make a delicious side dish for your Thanksgiving feast. But first, the busy Thanksgiving Day holiday travel season for Northeast Ohioans is well underway as guests hit the road or head to Cleveland Hopkins International Airport for their holiday travel plans. Before you go, here are some tips for safer travel. Travel this holiday weekend is expected to hit record numbers with an estimated 80 million people traveling 55 miles or more. If traveling by car, motorist group AAA wants to remind you of some important facts.
The worst times on the roads are going to be Tuesday and Wednesday before the holiday, and then again Sunday and Monday with people returning back home. So your best bet is to head out on the road on Thanksgiving Day. So if you can be flexible, that's going to have your minimal amount of traffic on the roads. If you can't travel on Thanksgiving Day, please make sure that you head out as early as possible. That way you can avoid that afternoon traffic.
If traveling by air, Michelle Denny of Cleveland Hopkins International Airport has one big tip for coming to the airport this holiday season.
The biggest tip I can give for our guests is to arrive at least 2 hours early at the airport. Many people seem to think that mornings are not busy when in fact they are our busiest time of day. So it's really important to be here 2 hours early, even in those early morning hours. To accommodate the influx of passengers, our TSA checkpoints will be opening a pinch earlier just to allow those queued lines to start moving a little quicker.
Before you head out, Denny also recommends checking the airport website at clevelandairport.com, where you can check on the status of your flight, the status of parking, and the status of TSA wait times. However you plan to get to your holiday destination, experts remind everyone to use common sense, have a safety plan, and don't ever drive while impaired. Cleveland Hopkins International Airport highlighted its winter maintenance operations during a recent press conference, showcasing the dedicated team responsible for keeping runways clear during snowy conditions.
Winter season for us never ends. We're constantly in a cycle of planning, evaluation, debriefing from the previous snow season and planning for the next snow season.
This year, we're trying something a little different where we'll dedicate a team to the runways and dedicate a separate team to other areas of our priority pavement. And we hope that that improves the timing. But that's what we aim for. 30-minute closure for snow removal and back open, get the runway back in service.
Constant training, updating, powertrains, transmissions, the bodies. It's a constant cycle. Always training, always improving, always trying to get better. So we can service this stuff best we can.
Thanksgiving is a time of fun and family, but accidents can happen, especially when cooking in front of a hot oven. TV20 health reporter Richard Stewart brings us tips for safe cooking, courtesy of the Cleveland Fire Department.
Today we're broadcasting from the Western Reserve Fire Museum and Education Center. We're going to talk fire safety during the holidays, and we're joined by Lieutenant Michael Norman. He's a lieutenant at the Cleveland Fire Department. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you told me earlier that this season is the biggest when it comes to kitchen fires. Why?
It can be. Well, this is a lot of times everybody's cooking for Christmas and Thanksgiving, right? They're holidays for everyone, but they're busy days for firefighters often. And a lot of times that's because of cooking fires.
So what are the most important things our viewers should know when it comes to getting ready to set your kitchen up to cook and actually executing a meal?
All right, well, the first thing you want to be mindful of is the chef, right? You want to make sure that you're in a good position to cook. You want to make sure that you're not tired, that you're not under the influence of anything. You don't want to be drinking and cooking, or maybe not drinking before you're cooking, but just be careful out there. You want to make sure that you're wearing clothing that wouldn't present a fire hazard, no baggy sleeves, no loose fitting clothing. You want to make sure that you're ready to cook.
And what about the cooking appliances in the kitchen? We have a sample toaster here. Tell us how to stay safe when you're using that.
So the second thing we're going to talk about is make sure that the kitchen's ready. So we have a couple of heat producing appliances coffee maker, crock pot, those want to be plugged directly into the wall socket, right? Otherwise they're a fire hazard. You never want to plug those into an extension cord. Here we have a toaster. We have this curtain is a little too close to the toaster, and the toaster's caught fire thanks to our props here at the Fire Museum. So what we're going to do for that is unplug it, remove the heat source for it, and that'll help to put that fire out.
And I see we have a frying pan on the stove. Talk about that.
All right, so when you come to the stove, everybody's going to be using their stove. The rules of thumb that we use are, if you're using the stove, if you've got something in the oven, stay at home. If you've got something on the cooktop, stay in the kitchen. Or if you're using the burner, stay in the kitchen. Now, in the event that this handle is positioned correctly, you never want to have a handle sticking out. That's a burn hazard. We're going to make sure our handles are in. And if the event that we do have a fire on top of the stove, we want to make sure we have a metal pan or even a cookie sheet handy that we can slide that over and smother that fire. Once it's covered, then you turn the power off, turn the heat off behind it. If there's a fire inside the stove, that's actually a safe place for a fire. We want to make sure that we just keep that door shut. We're not going to pull that out of there. And again, cut the heat to it so that we're taking away the heat source for it.
You know, I've got a Butterball deep fryer at home that I deep fry my turkeys in.
That's delicious. When do we go? What time's dinner?
I'll bring you a plate. But people always say, keep the deep turkey fryer outside of the house, right, not on the countertop. But it's designed to work on the countertop, at least some of them are.
Yeah, those have evolved quite a bit. Years ago, we would just advise people to just not fry turkeys. But now, like you said, there are countertop models. The keys with those, you want to make sure that you have a thawed turkey. You never want to put a frozen turkey into a turkey fryer, and make sure that that turkey is dry, because the water will react with the oil, and that's a burn hazard. If you have one of those bigger gas-powered turkey fryers, you want to make sure that you use that away from the structure. We don't want to be on a deck. We never want to be inside of a garage on a flat surface with no kids or no pets around, because it's not just a fire hazard, it's a burn hazard. The key with those, make sure that the oil is at the proper level, and when you're putting that turkey inside, cut the power off, cut the heat off underneath while the turkey's going in, and then reignite that flame. In case you get oil that splatters, that can be a cause of a fire. So they're dangerous, but they're delicious. So I mean, you want to make sure that you're balancing it as you're frying your turkey this year.
I noticed you had a couple of fire extinguishers for demonstration purposes. Where should people store those, and how close should they be to when you're operating in your kitchen?
That's a great question. We want to have our fire extinguishers in the means of egress, which is the way out of the kitchen. You never want to have to go past the fire. Like if that extinguisher are under the kitchen sink, that's a dangerous place. You have to go too close to the fire to get it. So if you go for that fire extinguisher, we want you to be going in a path that takes you out of the house. If the fire gets on the wall, if it spatters on the wall, the fire gets the house involved, it's beyond what you can do. Call 911, get us started, and get out of the house. If you can close the door to the kitchen on the way out, that'll compartmentalize the fire. That's a good thing to do. But the key is to just get out of the house, save yourself.
Tell us a little bit about this building that we're standing in. It's my first time here. Fascinating place. Talk about the Western Reserve Fire Museum and Education Center first.
So this is a great resource for Cleveland firefighters. We've got fire paraphernalia from all across this region, not just the city of Cleveland. They're set up for children's exhibits. They've got a lot of instructional areas in here, and then they keep our history alive here. So they've got apparatus and all sorts of old fire equipment and so forth. That is really fascinating place to spend a little time.
Lieutenant Norman, thank you for joining us and sharing these fire safety tips as we embark upon another holiday season.
Thanks for having us, Richard.
Folks, two things to keep in mind as we embark upon the holiday season is preparation and awareness as you get into the kitchen to prepare your holiday meal. I'm Richard Stewart, health reporter for TV20. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Richard. In our continuing series talking about the benefits of Cleveland's new 311 online system, we take a look at how 311 can help you with the most common of problems right now, leaf removal.
Leaf pickup is so important because you got snow season coming behind it. So it creates ice conditions. Once it creates ice conditions, you got more accidents. We service the high generational areas that got huge trees on the tree lawns and the front yard, which amounts to piles and piles of leaves. My name is San Antonio Gibbons. I'm a district unit leader for the city of Cleveland. I service over Glenville and Collinwood district. The most important part about my job is actually helping the city of Cleveland residents. And since I've been here for the last 20 years, I have been productively getting better, hearing the complaints from the residents, and I just been trying to add my knowledge and skills and just help the residents out as best I can with the services that we provide. 311 system is so beneficial because it brings the work straight to my desk. Residents, they can pick up the phone, make a call, or they can just go on the City of Cleveland website, put in a claim, and to go take you to 311.
Remember, for any issues or questions you may have about the City of Cleveland and the services provided, visit the 311 Non-Emergency Services website at clevelandohio.gov/311. We'll be back right after this.
Today's vote, in my eyes, is not a very difficult one.
Join Cleveland Public Library for festive holiday fun at Merry Maker Fest on Saturday, November 30th, starting at 10 a.m. at Main Library in downtown Cleveland. Experience a fun-filled day with activities for everyone, with real reindeer, hot cocoa and treats, DIY gift making, games with CPL play, and much more. Don't forget to visit our new robot friends, the band and Brett Hall, before heading over to Public Square for the annual tree lighting. Bring the whole family to Cleveland Public Library's Merry Maker Fest on Saturday, November 30th. This festive celebration is free and open to the public. Learn more at cpo.org/merrymakerfest.
Did you know that in the city of Cleveland, you can text 911 and the message goes directly to our communications center? Our dispatch staff will communicate with you via their keyboard, asking the same questions necessary to dispatch police, fire, or EMS emergency services. Keep this in mind if you are in the city and making an emergency phone call that might be a challenge.
This safety message is brought to you by the City of Cleveland Division of Police.
And welcome back to TV20 News. I'm Dan Monroe. The 155th Academy class of the Cleveland Division of Police took center stage recently as they graduated from cadets to officers. Before administering the oath of office, Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb congratulated the cadets on all the hard work they put in and called today's graduation historic.
Today is probably one of the most important days we've had in our city in a long time. As you look across the country, so many cities have been faced with so many challenges in terms of attracting and recruiting folks to join their respective police departments. But today is historic because for the first time in nearly 3 years, we are swearing in nearly 40 cadets to join the ranks of our police department.
Chief Director of Public Safety Wayne Drummond had a message for the new patrol officers.
You have all entered into a very noble profession that embodies public service. You have embarked on a career that is honorable and rewarding. Your chosen profession will allow you to impact lives in our community profoundly. Remember what was drilled into your heads daily while in the academy: pride, professionalism, respect, integrity, dedication, and excellence.
Finally, Cleveland Police Chief Dorothy Todd had a message for the families of the new officers.
These men and women in front of you will do extraordinary and heroic things that they will never talk about. Their incredible acts of kindness and bravery most times will go unnoticed. They will minimize these acts, like all of us, and consider it just part of the job. Nevertheless, always remember they are heroes, and they are here for the community on their most difficult days.
Everyone at TV20 would like to congratulate the new officers of the Cleveland Division of Police and wish them the best in their careers. You can also watch the Cleveland Police Academy's 155th Academy Class graduation ceremony right here on TV20, or anytime you like on our TV20 Cleveland YouTube page. Let's go now to the auditorium of Mary M. Bethune School for the unveiling of the newly renamed Shirley Chisolm Park.
Today, not only are we going to have a new park dedicated, we are going to have a new name, and we're going to learn about that important individual in history. You will hear great things and accomplishments of Shirley Chisolm from the next few speakers who have played a role in legislation being written for the renaming of the park.
We wanted Shirley Chisolm because she was the first to run for president of the United States of America.
So at the end of the day, you all have an inspiration that you can look up to. The reason that that's so important is because, as my friend Councilman Conwell says, children and families have to see success every day.
Two women whose names are synonymous with resilience, education, and service, Mary McLeod Bethune and Shirley Chisolm.
And we'll be back with more TV20 News right after these messages.
Looking for something truly unique in Cleveland? Step into Brett Hall at Cleveland Public Library and get ready to join the band. This interactive art installation by world-renowned art duo Friends With You, in collaboration with Land Studio, is unlike anything you've seen before. Open now through spring 2025, the band invites visitors of all ages to interact with 5 large-scale fuzzy characters, each ready to dance, connect, and spark joy in an entirely new way. These lovable robots are ready to charm you and demonstrate how technology and art can foster connection. The band is free and open to the public at Cleveland Public Library's main library at 325 Superior Avenue, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m., now through spring 2025. Learn more at cpl.org/theband.
The Cleveland Division of Police is announcing a new feature in reporting non-emergency crimes. When you call the non-emergency number 216-621-1234, a dispatcher will then send you a link via text to your cell phone. Other options are to call 833-461-0144 or use the QR code and report your non-emergency crime. We encourage everyone to add both the Cleveland Division of Police non-emergency phone number and the direct number in their cell phones.
This safety message is brought to you by the City of Cleveland Division of Police.
Welcome back to TV20 News. I'm Dan Monroe. I recently visited the Community Resource Center of the Greater Cleveland Food Bank to learn how to make a delicious and healthy dish that you can easily make at your holiday gatherings this year. We're here at the training kitchen at the Community Resource Center of the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, and joining me now is Jamie Smith, our chef for the hour. Jamie, what are we making today?
I am going to do a butternut squash macaroni and cheese. Now that we're getting ready for the Thanksgiving season, I thought this would be a nice comfort dish, but it's a little nicer on your waistline as well. The butternut squash acts like just a hint of sweetness that you wouldn't normally expect in a macaroni and cheese, but it also gives you that beautiful creaminess, but without like all of the butter and the flour and the million cheeses like we would normally use in a traditional macaroni and cheese.
Okay, well, let's talk about the ingredients we have here.
So we've got a Colby Jack cheese here. We've got a little Swiss shredded as well, some finely diced onion, a little olive oil. Then we've got a Velveeta cheese blend that'll also give us that creaminess along with the squash. We've got our butternut squash, a little salt and pepper blend that we're going to roast our butternut squash in. And then we've got this seasoned blend, which is just salt, pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder that we're going to put in our actual cheese sauce.
Okay.
A little bit of Dijon mustard, which is a surprise, but it gives it a nice hint.
Okay.
And then we're going to finish with a little bit of fresh parsley. Oh, and of course our milk and our already cooked pasta as well.
Can't do it without the elbow macaroni, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, how do we start?
All right, so first we are going to get our onions sauteing, and I diced them really fine so that they would not only cook faster, but also once we cook down our butternut squash and our onions, we will have to puree it in order to get it to that creamy texture of like a macaroni and cheese. So cooking the onions smaller just helps to like break everything down once you go to blend it. All right, so while those are sauteing, I am going to get my butternut squash in the oven roasting. I also chopped these up kind of, not fine, but similar size and smaller so that they would roast in about 10 minutes or so. So I'm gonna add a little oil to our butternut squash and then just a little bit of salt and pepper and then give it a quick toss. And we're gonna toss this in the oven for about, like I said, 8 to 10 minutes so it can soften up.
And Jamie, while you're preparing the rest of this, we got some already made up.
Yeah, we have some that was already roasted. So what I just did while we were talking is added the butternut squash that I had already roasted to that onion mixture. And we're just gonna let that cook down, mix it in a little bit, and next we're gonna add our milk after that. And what we're gonna do is bring that milk up to like a light simmer.
Okay.
And then go ahead and blend everything up and make it nice and smooth. I'm also going to add right now, this is probably about a tablespoon. I'll add about half of that Dijon mustard.
It's got I like Dijon mustard with that.
It just has like a hint, and not too much, you know what I mean? A little goes a long way with that, so you don't have to worry about using too much. And then I'm going to add a little bit of my spice blend, which I said is the salt and pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder. And this is just going to give some good flavor to our cheese sauce, our squash cheese sauce. All right. So now here comes the fun part. I'm gonna go ahead and use my immersion blender to blend all of this up. If you do not have an immersion blender, you can definitely just pour this into like a NutriBullet or your regular blender that you would use to make smoothies. Or you could also just take a potato masher. I'm making a mess. You could take a potato masher and just mash that butternut squash up. Yep. And then mix it all in that way.
I like using the potato masher because it reminds me of how our ancestors did it in the olden days before they had things like this by hand.
And even if you didn't have a potato masher, I mean, I've used the glass. Like I've used a mug, a glass. Just
anything. Anything to smash it down. Sure.
Anything you would use to mash potatoes.
Creative.
Yep. So you're just going to take and move that all around, get all your butternut squash all blended, get this nice and creamy, your onions blended up in there. And then at that point, you could also, if you want, I'm gonna add a little bit more milk here.
Okay.
Because I know that when I go to add my cheese, it's gonna thicken it up as well.
It does like the splatter though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
We'll have a little bit later. Yeah, looks good.
Yep, so I think we got a good consistency there. Now we can go ahead and add our cheese. I'm gonna start with our Velveeta. And I'm gonna add half of this first, and then if we need to add a little bit more,
we can. Depending on how creamy you like it, right?
Yep. I'm also gonna turn the heat down a little bit because you don't want your cheese to burn or stick to the bottom. So I'll turn it to a medium-low heat and let all of that get melty, schmelty. I'm gonna add my Swiss necks. And also, when you're adding cheeses, the smaller you cut it, just like with the onions or the squash, the smaller the better because it will melt faster.
Okay.
You know, if you put a big lump of log of cheese in there, then
it'll take a long time to melt down.
Exactly.
Sure.
So I'm gonna put one of these Colbys in here, and the other one we're gonna save for when we pop it in the oven. So now you see we're getting that nice cheesy texture that we love. We're just waiting for a few more blocks of that Velveeta to melt down, and then we can go ahead and add our pasta to that.
Okay. Oh, nice and creamy, yeah.
Yep. but not as much cheese. Like I said, when I make this for the holidays, normally for my family, you know, I do the traditional way. So I'll make a roux with, you know, butter and flour, and I'm doing like 5 different cheeses plus the pasta and, you know, the heavy cream and the milk. And this is a way to cut all of that. I mean, we don't have any butter in this recipe, no flour, you know, just 3 types of cheeses instead of your regular 5 or 6, you know what I mean? And also, if you wanted to make this an even more healthier dish, you could, in lieu of the regular enriched white flour pasta, you can use wheat pasta as well, which is better for your fiber. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix our pasta in here and just fold that in. Make sure all of your pasta noodles get coated evenly.
Is that the one key to making good macaroni and cheese, is to keep stirring so nothing settles, nothing burns on the bottom?
Right, because cheese burns fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's an expensive product, so you don't want to waste it. And you don't want that scorched taste on your macaroni and cheese. So you got it all mixed in. I've got my oven on 400 because everything is cooked, so all we want is just for the cheese to get nice and bubbly on top. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of the Kobe, and then we're gonna pop this in the oven.
All right. And that's just for maybe, what you said, 8-10 minutes? So
I would say, yeah, no more than 10 minutes.
No more than 10 minutes.
Yeah,
let
you
it
just
melt
want to
off,
get a
melt
nice
away.
brown on the top, like
Which
we
is,
did
that's what it looks
here.
like. Okay.
And now I'm gonna grab a plate so I can see how this is. And this recipe was fairly quick too. I mean,
very quick.
I think about 30 minutes tops from start to beginning.
And very
and
easy.
one thing I forgot. I mean, if you want to get fancy schmancy, you can top it, you know, if you're serving, with a little bit of fresh parsley rather.
Okay.
Just to give it a little color and a little beauty. So there you are.
Butternut squash macaroni and cheese.
Now let me know how it compares to your regular traditional macaroni and cheese.
I can taste that cheese, the different cheeses. It's creamy, but not overly thick. Oh, it's very good.
Thank you.
Oh, it's very good. Yeah, I like this. Very good recipe, Jamie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For this
Thank you
great
for having
mac and
me.
cheese recipe. Boy, that was so good and really so easy to make. Hey, we are constantly uploading new content on our TV20 Cleveland YouTube page, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. You can also connect with TV20 Cleveland on your favorite social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and X. And also, we're doing a lot of new stuff on Instagram. Hey, thanks for watching TV20 News. I'm Dan Monroe. Be sure to stay tuned for more on TV20. We are Cleveland.